Hey, Jordan, what's today's topic?
Hey, Selena. Today's topic is, and I'm not going to say this lightly because I think we might say this a couple times, but this is the true one where I'm going to say this is my favorite topic.
Me too.
And I think realistically, like this topic comes up in every episode we do. Like I have no doubt in my mind this will come up in every episode we do. But today's topic is all about brand purpose, the importance of purpose within your brand and within your organization, why it's important to think about your purpose and why you do what you do and not just what you do, and how that sets you up and how that sets up marketing and everything else.
Like magic.
Oh, it's just like magic. Brand
It
purpose
is.
magic. So we're going to get into it. You're listening to Build Up, the Homebuilder podcast, brought to you by ZGM. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Selena.
We're marketers.
And brand strategists.
And we love applying our expertise to the home building industry. Join us as we uncover industry insights, chat with colleagues, and explore exciting ways to push the home building world forward. Selena, who's the guest on the show today?
On today's episode, we have Kim Tieu joining us. She is a senior marketing manager at Cantiro. And it's somebody that we've worked closely with on a couple branding projects. So definitely a lot of cool things to talk about with her.
We've built 2 brand purposes for 2 home builders with Kim. So she is very knowledgeable on the topic, and it's going to be a good conversation.
Can't wait.
Let's go.
Hi, Kim.
Hello.
We are so happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
I know we love chatting about brand purpose and, not just in the home building industry, but beyond, and looking at what's going on, different innovations, different trends of different brands and how they're kind of living their brand purpose. But we really want to chat with you about the process of, working with a brand that's already established and diving into really what is their brand purpose and going in deep and working with the whole organization on trying to figure out really why does everybody come to work? What are they working towards? What is the goal, I think? So that's what we want to chat about. Maybe just a little bit about, currently what you're doing with the home builder that you're working with and why you started working with them, kind of what was the goal?
So I work for a real estate company called Cantiro. So they are a fully integrated real estate. So they do land development, commercial development, residential rentals, as well as home building. And I joined the company last year, kind of in the crux of when the different divisions of the business was coming together under one brand. That was always their goal. Previously, they had operated under very different divisions, different names, different identities, and there wasn't a lot of collaboration going on prior to that. And knowing that their goal was to bring it under one name and one unified brand, that's kind of what I came on to help with. And, working with you guys, we started with the foundation of, what are our values, what are the company values, and what does the company really believe in, and why has it thrived so long and why are they doing what they're doing? And that's kind of how we built the purpose, which is creating the environments for amazing lives to happen.
I love this purpose.
I know.
I think that this purpose really speaks to what Cantiro is all about. I really do honestly believe that. I feel like, we came to a really good spot with it. But a question for you, Kim. Selena and I talk about brand purpose all the time, and we know what it means to us. And we know what it means to us from a ZGM point of view. But as a home builder and as a client who's gone through this process, what does brand purpose mean to you? What's sort of the power of brand purpose?
I think the power of this brand purpose is that it kind of grounds the company a little bit, and it focuses our energy on business decisions that actually live up to this purpose. So if and it doesn't have to be necessarily client-facing, but it's how you treat your trade partners, your investors, your employees. All of it is encompassed in this, like, how do we create the environments, like, do the employees feel great working for the company? Do our trades feel good working for us? On the client side are we building the best homes for them? Are we creating an experience for them that they enjoy? Do they love the communities that they live in? Are we planning the commercial developments or the tenants that we bring in to really bring that to life? So every decision we make is based off of this purpose.
I love that. And I love that it's like from something really small that may have been overlooked. It's like, wait, let's take a step back. Is this creating an environment for something amazing to happen? And I think it gets like buy-in too from your whole team. Like, just because you're working in sales or doing one little small thing with a customer, it's like, could this be better? How could I make this amazing?
Yeah. And I think it also helps to focus our efforts as a company. There's so many different directions that we can go, but if we just take a step back and be like, does this live up to our purpose? If it doesn't, it's not worth pursuing.
That's so important. And that's exactly what brand purpose is all about. Like when we talked about that North Star, it's that piece that helps guide making decisions. And it's not just a marketing thing.
No.
This is a company thing.
Exactly.
I also, I love the Cantiro purpose and talking about the environments for amazing lives to happen. And the fact that Cantiro is like homes, communities, commercial, rental, all of those different things. And when you do your job really well and you put it all together for a client and for a resident, it's all just so good for them. It's seamless and it just creates this environment and they can live their best life.
Yeah. And, oftentimes we do take for granted the fact that we are selling a home or a community to these people. But if you really think about it, it's most people's like biggest purchase they ever make in their lives. It's a huge milestone. And the fact that they're choosing us to, build their home, build their community, and they're building their lives around, what we've had created, like that's actually pretty powerful. And, we don't want to take that for granted.
That makes my heart beat.
This is how I know Kim and Selena are in cahoots.
Right?
Cahoots because it's a great client agency relationship.
We're the real Linda and Heather.
Yeah, actually, that's true. That's true. Watch our TikToks if you don't
Yeah.
know what we're talking about.
Okay. I was like, I have no idea who you're talking about.
I love that. That honestly, like my heart flutters when I hear that because it makes me so happy because it is about something greater and making sure everybody in the organization is on board for that because I think sometimes people forget they're doing their silo, kind of doing their own thing. And what was so fantastic about the Cantiro rebrand was kind of breaking down those walls between the different divisions and sections of the organization and bringing them all together. So I think I'd love to chat a bit about that and kind of that process and how it went for you, really. If you had any hurdles there, the successes maybe too.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Anytime you go through a rebrand or a name change, it's a sensitive topic. There's a lot of people who have attachment to the previous brand, and
Yes.
You guys know that we went through this full market research to figure out what is the brand equity of the previous name that we had for that. But I think in the end, one of the biggest things about a rebrand is trying to involve as many people as you can without, how do I say this? It's not like you're asking for them to make the decision, but you're trying to get their input.
Yeah.
So that they feel like there's buy-in, that their opinions are taken into consideration, and all the experiences that they have had in their roles, and how they see the company and how they want to see it moving forward is super important. One of our conscious decisions that we made at the very beginning was that we weren't going to allow ourselves to get stuck in the weeds of, what does this logo look like? Is it going to be capital letters? Is it going to be small letters? What are the colors that we use? We knew at the very beginning that we were going to take that to focus groups. But what we did want everyone to get on board with was the brand platform, the purpose, the positioning, our values, the messaging. Once we had all of that in place, I think visual expression just came out of it naturally, and everyone's very happy with how it turned out.
The logo really is a representation of the platform.
Yeah.
When you look at the written expressions emotions of the brand. It's expressed through the logo and through the visuals, which I think is really cool, not to pat ourselves on the back too much. But to pick up on a point that you made, Kim, people do have attachment to the brand. And it can be sometimes customers, and I think that's often something that many organizations overlook. And the power of that can be overlooked. And it can be big and small, because I think Gap is the best example. They went forward a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, redid their logo, came out with it, and they're
I remember that. Yeah, I
good.
actually remember that
absolutely.
backlash.
And like it was really their customers who were just like, no, that's not the brand. I know the brand better than you do. And it was really a great example of, you know, when marketers don't really understand the brand.
How about Tropicana when they changed their carton of their juice, like the whole like creative like aesthetic of it, and like their sales plummeted.
Yeah.
They had to go back
Yeah.
because to the old design because people are so used to seeing that orange with the straw in it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think in a lot of ways, when you get to a certain point, there are aspects of your brand that you don't own anymore. It becomes part of something bigger, which is exciting, but also very challenging.
Which is why when we did that market research, it was so valuable because we saw like, you know, there is some maybe internal attachments to the brand just because of history and working with an
Right.
organization for so long. But that feeling wasn't the same as what consumers were seeing. And that's where I think it's really important to do market research to get that buy-in from the start. Like, we're not just making an assumption. This is what's really, really happening.
Yeah, but to that point, when we were building the brand and the purpose, we were very conscious not to lose our identity from the past, right? You know, the values are still very much the same, and how our company operates and customer service is always top priority. That aspect isn't lost.
No.
You know, we just kind of rolled it all into something that was more all-encompassing, and spoke to the direction that the company was moving forward to.
Yeah, it's, I wouldn't say better, but I feel like it's more true now to what the organization stands for, especially, you know, pushing forward and being innovative and all that stuff. Now you really feel it with Cantiro and the messaging and even the logo, like how it's visually represented. Yeah, it's really nice. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting with this brand because you had all these different divisions that you were bringing together. We were really able to find the commonalities amongst all the different divisions.
Right.
And what really was important to the overall company and how that fit with all the different divisions. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we really had too much pushback from any division who said, you know, this doesn't feel like us, or why are you putting this on us? Like I feel like it really came together.
It did. And considering how quickly we had to move, I think everyone, truthfully, this rebrand was probably years in the making. But it wasn't until we had a set plan. You know, we brought you guys on as partners, and, you know, we actually laid out pretty clearly the timelines of every single step that we went through. And we knew, you know, the learn phase and the market research side was going to take this long, and you know, developing the platform was going to take this long, and we had commitments from the team at the very beginning that this was what we were going to do and this is what we were going to stick to it. Otherwise, you know, we weren't going to hit the deadlines that we wanted to. And you know, I think that because it was so thought through that there wasn't that much pushback. You know, we did consider all the different aspects of the business and, you know, how people were feeling. You know, we didn't want to just brush aside the history and the legacy that this company has had, but we wanted to roll it into the brand itself. And that has a lot to do with the buy-in that we had gotten from the company.
That's awesome. And I think that being able to bring all of that history and legacy into the new brand, like that's such an interesting part of repositioning a brand, as opposed to starting a brand new one where, you know, there's a lot of founder stuff. There was still a lot of founder stuff with this brand, but lots of people had feelings towards what the new brand was going to be about. What are some of the benefits? What are the other benefits that you've seen with having this unified kind of global purpose and positioning for Cantiro since having launched it?
Well, we had touched a bit on this, but it is the driving force of all the business decisions that we have made. So there's been a lot of innovative ideas and approaches that have come up because it just started with, you know, using even our message pillar. One of the message pillars is like, how do we make sure that we are creating homes that are very life forward in their design? And decisions such as like rolling in a tech package or the Life collection, that's a huge one that we launched this year, was based off of how can we bring our purpose to life? And that's helped drive a lot of the decisions. But not only that, I think it really unified a lot of the different divisions. Like I'm not just talking about, land, homes, and commercial, but even some of the departments that don't normally feel like the brand really affects them, like the accounting side or finance or, customer care. Everyone suddenly is working towards the same goal and direction, and they're thinking, okay, like how can I make in my position create this environment for the clients that I am dealing with, or for the trades or the partners that I'm working with. So everything becomes, it is like exactly like I said, a North Star. It guides their decision.
Okay, so I know that it was like quite the project with Cantiro. Lots of different moving pieces and all that good stuff as expected. But something we often talk about is, we could have the most fantastic brand and it's beautiful and the purpose is, pulls at the heartstrings or guides or is a North Star. But not having the whole team involved and buying in and living that purpose, it kind of falls flat.
Right.
So maybe we could talk a bit about the steps that you took to do a little bit of that training and getting the team excited about the brand and launching the brand, because I think that's a big piece too. You could say this is our new brand, this is our purpose, and here are some documents, but I think the steps you took were really good.
Right. So we did involve the company as a whole at every step of the brand building process. So, after the market research, we would actually update the team on like what are some of the findings that we saw. Some were surprises and some were not to the bigger team. And, we had the brand platform. So they were very much updated throughout the whole process. And, we included employee surveys and we got their opinions on a lot of the different steps in the brand building. And I think the biggest involvement was when we were doing the strategic roadmap on how to launch, when we were going to launch this brand, and getting the players involved and saying like, who are the people that we need to be talking to? What are the messaging that we need to send them to? What are some of the concerns that might come up with this new rebrand? And, having them actually involved and like doing some of the work, I guess, behind it did get them to buy in on this, saying that, they really believed in it. And of course, we did the final launch with the internal team. We brought everyone in, socially distanced at the time, because of course we did the brand middle of pandemic.
Best time.
Yep, greatest timing ever. But it was great because, we gave everyone the swag and we had everyone a chance to ask their questions and made the presentation more interactive. So as opposed to just spewing out, this is our brand and this is who we are now, we actually kind of took a step back and talked about like, why is brand so powerful? How can it help the business? How does it help with the bottom line? How does it drive your business decisions? And then we asked questions that were specific and pertinent to different departments, saying like, if you were working in construction, what could you be doing to create the environments for amazing lives to happen? And suddenly people were understanding their role in the brand itself.
One of the things that I love so much about what you're saying right now, Kim, is I have this secret theory. It's not a secret now that I'm telling everyone. I have this theory that everyone in a company, yeah, you can all have my secret. Everyone in your company is a salesperson. And whether or not they're your like salesperson of the year, where they love the brand and they do an amazing job of it, or they're the person that you walk into the store and they're sitting on the counter playing on their phone behind the counter, like that's true of everyone. And you getting, even the construction teams or the accounting team, like they have friends that will eventually buy homes. And if they work for a home builder, people will ask them about Cantiro. So, you enabling them to understand the brand and really believe and buy in with that engagement piece, like you're just making people who are already accidental salespeople better at that.
Yeah, that's right. And I truly believe that your company employees are the greatest brand ambassadors you have. And it's also the most cost efficient.
You talked about the whole team. We launched this to the whole team. We went through, we did all the steps. and we've heard that definitely the executive is living by these rules. Do you see that also in the day-to-day and with non-executive and non-marketing employees? Do you feel like they're living the brand?
I think for the most part they are, but I will say that, once you launch a brand, it's not a one and done thing. It's not a set it, forget it. And, I know that a big focus for our company is to make sure that the brand continues to live on. And, even when we have new people come in or we haven't seen each other in a really long time, that it is a topic that we want to keep top of mind. So our job is never done. It's always growing, it's always building, but yeah, it's never done.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the things that you sort of do on a regular basis to keep that brand and brand purpose alive and front and center?
Well, one thing that we're going to start implementing is more regular, I guess, like quarterly touch bases and refreshers of our brand. The sales team in particular, because they are the most front-facing, customer-facing, we do quizzes with them on a regular basis to ensure that they're speaking our language, they know how to sell the brand, and we're not calling anyone out, but we just want to make sure that everyone is kind of doing it in the direction. And on a less frequent basis, we do that twice a year with the larger group to ensure that we are also, everyone actually understands what the brand platform and the purpose is. And with new people coming in, everyone has a copy of the brand book, but we're also going to start doing an orientation with them and kind of explaining the story behind why the brand is the way it is.
That's so important to give the context. It's not only like here's what it is, but it's like here's the story. And I think the brand book does a pretty good job of doing the history of it all.
Right. Yeah. And I think like you said, with the context, I think we're still in a place and time where a lot of people do think brand is just the logo, right? It has nothing to do with their position, but we really want to get it to everyone coming in that absolutely everyone has a say and a place with the brand.
Yeah. I think unless you're like Nike or Coca-Cola or maybe Apple or something, like your logo is really not that important. Like
That's right.
It's like compared to all the other stuff that goes into it, it's not really that important.
It also feels to me like 2021 was the year where brands started to catch on to the idea that purpose was important, but they were almost doing it in lip service and not in actuality. Like not putting it through to the sales team, not incorporating the whole company, like very much like this is what we stand for in our ads, but nowhere else.
Yeah, that's so true. And when we were launching it with the company, we actually, the ads was the last thing we showed them because we don't want them to think that, brand purpose is just in advertising.
Talking about the salesperson again, and what you're doing with the salespeople and making sure that ties into the brand purpose and constantly refreshing on that and keeping it top of mind is so important. Selena and I talked about that in our first episode with customer experience and how the role of the salesperson isn't just to like walk in and be like, yes, this is our 3,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, I know that information. I can read that on a sign. I think, and you can speak to this, Kim, maybe, the role of the salesperson is to like hype the brand, be a brand ambassador, tell the story and the purpose of the brand beyond just the facts that someone can read on a sign.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. Every builder can essentially say the same thing. Everyone's building 3-bedroom, 2.5-bedroom homes. It's what makes you stand out from the rest of the competition, right? Like all of that is table stakes now. Everyone has quartz countertops. Everyone has LVT flooring, but it's building a brand that people actually want to buy from. And we've talked about this before, but there is like a shift in buyer behavior where, our generation, the millennials, Gen Zs especially, they want to buy from brands they believe stands for something. Like, beyond just the product that they're selling, it's something that makes them believe that they're actually trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah, and they're making a decision because I think the other part of it is, like you said, it's table stakes. You go look at houses online or in person, and by the end of it, you're just like, I don't even know who was what and what was who. But if you can rise above all of that with some sort of level of purpose and some sort of level of connection with a human being on a human being level, that makes all the difference in the world. That's something people remember. People remember emotional connection and like values connection far greater than they remember any sort of, I like the way the kitchen was designed.
Yep. And you know, a lot of people think that home building is a very rational decision, and you'll always find those rational buyers who will go through the entire specification list and compare this builder to that builder. But at the end of the day, it's such an emotional buy. It's a huge part of your life, and if it doesn't feel right, whether it's the house itself or the company that you're buying from, you're not going to win with them.
Yeah, for sure. I think far too often as well, and this is something that is another sort of interesting element of the home builder industry. A lot of times it's like, oh, well, I walked into the show home, or I walked into that model home and I just knew. I just fell in love with it and I just knew it was the right house for me. That for me is like, you got lucky as a home builder.
Right.
That like you just happened to put a plan together that someone was able to walk into and be like, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
They're still having an emotional connection with it. They can't rationalize, oh, I love it because of this, this, and this. Maybe they can do a little bit of that after the fact, but in the moment, it's such an emotional connection. And again, if that's what you're relying on, I think you're just getting lucky as a home builder. And I think what's far more powerful is having a brand purpose that someone can fall in love with and have that connection with first, because I don't care if you walked into that home from another builder and fell in love with it. I could build you that home.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's all the same.
It's true.
Yeah.
So you got to fall in love with something else and stop just trying to get lucky with show homes.
Yep. And it guides your storytelling. It's your brand. I mean, a lot of great brands do that. Dove is a great example where they built this whole purpose on building self-esteem in the people that they sell it for. And, they're not focusing on the product itself, but they're actually focused on their purpose. And I, for one, I can't tell the difference between what soaps or body wash I'm using, but I do find myself gravitating towards that because I love their purpose so much.
Yeah. You just feel better using it. You
Right.
don't know why, but you just
Yeah.
do.
And I feel like this is embarrassing to admit, but I feel like I'm the type of person, and a lot of us are, where you almost feel like the brands that you interact with or have say something about yourself, right? Like the type of car that you drive, the type of handbag you have, and even the type of home you own now, right? Like there's this piece of like, I am partially defined by the brands that I purchase and engage with.
It's that identification, which actually what the Life Collection, so our homes that we just launched this summer, was basically based around that, is that self-identification. If you can create something that people feel like, this is me, this is part of my personality, this is how I live, it's created for me personally, you create that attachment and that affinity to what you're selling that goes beyond what your competitors can compete on. It's a feeling now and not necessarily a feature.
I agree. I strongly believe that, the home building industry has just missed that like branding piece of somebody that's like proud to own this brand of home. If you have a Chanel bag, like you believe in that brand, you feel like you've
Yes.
accomplished something by owning your first or buying your first Chanel bag. There's this emotional feeling when you buy your first Chanel bag. Well, for me, whatever. That's how I felt. But that I'm sure many people have different connections to different brands. Somebody buying maybe their first Rolex. I know that's like a huge deal for a lot, or a certain car, or whatever it is. But I haven't really seen that in home building, but why not?
Why not, right? It's the
Yeah.
most expensive thing that you'll probably buy in your entire lifetime. And, example that I always use is, if you can brand water, you can brand homes. People, they buy their Voss or they buy their Evian, and suddenly it says something about, who they are as a person, but it's water. It's the most ubiquitous thing
But
in the
it's
entire
Fiji
world,
water.
right? But if you can brand water, you can absolutely brand a home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really can. And this is the whole podcast right here. This is the whole reason that we started Build Up, was because we see opportunity in the home builder industry. There's opportunities to go beyond, push further, push harder, be better. We think that you can really win through marketing. Like there's an opportunity to set yourself up and your home building company up for success through marketing.
Right. If every company right now is competing on the same level, playing field, features, attributes, whatnot, I feel like marketing and branding is the thing that will take you to the next level.
Definitely. And every home builder, there's a lot of similarities, maybe product, like you were saying, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, whatever. Countertops, quartz is now normal. But really, every builder is so unique in what they offer and their process and who they're kind of tailored to, that that's for me like the hugest opportunity. Like, okay, like let's dive deep and figure out what makes you you.
Right.
I have yet to come across a home builder who we've worked on brand purpose for, and we've done a number of them, that we weren't able to get to something truly unique. You know, it took some digging and we had to get there.
Right.
But every single time I'm confident in saying, and I can also say this because I've done it for quite a few builders, that their stories are different and their purposes are different. And that means something.
Yeah.
And if you can get to that and own that part of the market and own that relationship with customers, that's when you start really winning.
For sure.
It's far too often that I think builders go out and try to attract everybody. But like if you can actually target and find the people who would be most interested in you, it's more efficient, it's cheaper, it's more successful, and that is winning.
Right. And, you know, if you try to target everybody, you're essentially targeting nobody, right? You become a very generic brand that doesn't really speak to anyone.
I love it. So good.
I'm curious, not to take this in a different direction, Jordan, than you may have had planned, but I'm curious, Kim, have you started to see some results from that brand already? Like, are you seeing any metrics or indicators of increased brand affinity from your customer basis or the market at large that you are trying to target?
For sure. And I think, you know, one of the biggest things is our company was operating under very fragmented brands in the past. You know, there was Dolce Vita Homes, there was Beaverbrook Communities, and, you know, Moda for the townhomes and in-house for their multifamily projects. And, you know, when you're being pulled in so many different directions, your resources are being spread thin, and now you're pulling everything under one name, building that brand affinity for Cantiro. Yeah, we've seen a tremendous increase in the people who are coming through our website, and people who, even with a new brand, and it's usually will take a little while to build it back up, but we found it happened much faster than we thought it would.
It was pretty quick.
It was really quick, yeah.
We talked about the connection with the brand, you know, with the executive, internally with the company, and all of that side of things. But what has sort of been the experience with the customers? What's the sort of the response been to the brand since launching?
You know, it's actually been really positive. I think, you know, we were always going to run into that awkward phase where the people were looking at Dolce Vita Home and not knowing what happened. You know, there's like a little bit of uncertainty there, but in general, I think it's not like our processes have changed. It's not like our values have changed. The people that were there, that they were working with, are still there, and you know, customer service and creating the best experience for them is still very much the same. And you know, once they got over, you know, that name change and the logo change, they realized who we are as a core company is still very much the same, and who they wanted to work with.
I think that probably means that we did it right.
I think so too. Pat ourselves on the back a little bit.
Absolutely.
Kim, from your perspective, if other builders are thinking about undertaking a rebrand, what advice or considerations would you give them?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it needs to start from understanding the core values of your company and building from there. It can't start from, you know, what's it going to look like to the customer, or like how am I going to express this visually? It needs to be from like deep within, like what your company stands for.
So not a logo.
Not a logo.
Don't start with a logo. Okay.
Never start with a logo. Your logo is your visual expression of everything that you stand for, but it's not your brand.
Well said.
So the question that we always like to ask at the end of every episode, Kim, and we include our guests in this because it's always interesting to hear, you know, your perspective on the matter. But out of this conversation, what was everyone's biggest takeaway or the big idea that they got out of this that they think other builders should know? I can start if anyone needs a minute.
You can start, and then I've got one, so you can pass it to me.
Great. So my biggest takeaway from this conversation is that rebrands, or creating a meaningful brand in general, needs to be an entire company thing. It can't just live with the executives or the marketing team. It can't feel like something that the great hand from the sky just passed down to the rest of the company. It has to be an all-encompassing initiative in order to be true and meaningful and impactful. That's my takeaway, and I'll pass off to Jordan next.
Thank you, Santana. I'm going to build on your takeaway because I'm going to say that my biggest takeaway from this conversation, and it's something that I truly believe and we talk about a lot, brand purpose isn't just a marketing thing. It's something that is core to the company, to the whole organization. And I loved when Kim was talking about executive using the brand platform to help make business decisions. Because that's what it's all about. If you can have a brand purpose, it's not just about like, is this going to work in marketing? That's part of it. But brand purpose is so integral to the core of the company that it should be used as a test for business decisions. And when you can do that, that means I think that you've got something really, really good. It means you've got something really, really valid and important. And so that's my biggest takeaway. Executive using the purpose to help validate business decisions. Selena, what's your biggest takeaway from today's episode?
My biggest takeaway is that this industry is just waiting to be branded. And it's super exciting, and I can't wait to hear people say, come see my new blank home. And I bought this blank home because it is so-and-so, and I love it, and I, talk about why it aligned with their values, because I truly believe that if you're living in a product every single day and your family is growing up in this product, it's part of your home is your life. It's part of your life, and it should be a brand that you talk about and you share and you speak with your friends too and are really, really proud of. So for me, biggest takeaway is, again, a huge opportunity in this industry to kind of show up and talk about who they are and brand themselves really well. How about you, Kim?
I think my biggest takeaway for this is, the fact that you guys are even talking about this, branding in the home building world. And, sure, everyone probably believes that they had a brand in place, but, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think, with this conversation and the work that you guys are doing and, what we have done, it is going to start becoming a bigger thing and reason for people buying into homes or communities in this industry.
Brand purpose helps you take over the world.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah.
When you do it. And your purpose isn't to take over the world.
Not a good purpose, Jordan.
Well, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Kim.
Great.
This was
Thanks for
such a
having
fun
me.
conversation.
Yeah, always happy to talk about brand.
Yeah.
I know, I love it. Yay. Talk to you tomorrow.
This has been a ZGM podcast with your hosts, Jordan Mayer and Selena Hallaby, produced by Santana Blanchette, edited by Shelby Von Groven and Scott Steele, and supported by everyone on the ZGM team.
Woo!